Hi, in this lecture, we're going to talk about how businesses make use of analytics to be able to get ahead in their business and form a level of competitive advantage. Inside the playlist on YouTube, I have this video link. It's about Moneyball. And Moneyball is a movie starring Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and it documents the rise of the Oakland Athletics and how they used analytics to be able to maximize their dollars to pay players so that way they would win. Now, the Oakland Athletics was one of the poorest Major League Baseball teams at the time, and they could only afford mid-level players. And using statistics and data analytics, they were able to purchase the contracts for players that will be able to deliver a win. Now, I'm not going to tell you how far they went through their season, but it was successful, and the success of how they accomplished their goals was actually duplicated by the Boston Red Sox and also the Chicago Cubs. And if you follow baseball, those are two teams that have struggled with getting World Series wins. And in the last decade, both of them have obtained World Series wins. So watch this video when you get an opportunity. It's very interesting, and it's a great way of how data can be introduced into organizations for insights. One of the things that we talked about in the last lecture is looking at the areas of descriptive, predictive, and also prescriptive analytics. Now, one of the things that I want to point out with this particular slide is that as you move from left to right, we have a greater amount of complexity that occurs with the algorithms that you might use. So each one of these items here is a type of data analytics tool or algorithm. And what ends up happening as you move from left to right, these algorithms and how to use them and how to apply them becomes more complex. Complexity can be an issue of just practical knowledge, the data that you have, the tools that you have, maybe the resources like computing power, etc. But also as they become more complex, they also allow your business to have a greater competitive advantage. Also, as you climb up in this direction, which is the greatest amount of complexity and the greatest amount of competitive advantage, you can see how these are all partitioned in areas of prescriptive, predictive, and descriptive analytics. Right? So you can see how all those kind of play out. Of course, there's a lot of red lines there. Let me get rid of that. So yeah, so descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics are the three areas of analytics we discussed before. And as you go up the chain of complexity, you also gain competitive advantage. So if you're a new company starting out, you might start with some basic descriptive analytics. And as you learn more about analysis, you would continue up with greater complexity. So that way you can have more competitive advantage. So in practice, we're going to talk about all types of analytics in a very cursory, surface level type of perspective. But a lot of times people will look at predictive and prescriptive analytics to be considered advanced analytics. And I would agree with that for the most part. What ends up happening is that these types of tools require a lot more computing power and a lot more knowledge in order to run them. So the descriptive analytics becomes something that everybody can do, which is why the predictive and prescriptive analytics becomes greater with a competitive advantage. In finance, right, they use predictive models for forecasting, risk assessment, also looking at what other kind of financial instruments are available, etc. Also in finance, they use a lot of simulation. So these are areas that become very useful for those types of areas, those types of tools, excuse me. Human resources is another area. The biggest thing about human resources is they want to look at skill sets of potential employees. They're looking at the quality of the talent, and they also look at the organizational diversity goals. And they use data from job applicants to be able to align the potential employees with their goals of the organization. So also I've included in the playlist this video dealing with how Spotify makes use of your data to be able to make recommendations for songs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this video here, and I'm going to give you the moment to watch the Spotify video, and then we'll continue with this part of the lecture.